Hi, I'm Ellen from the Chili Dog, and today I'd like to share an interesting way to use your needle tips to help you keep track of your progress when you're knitting in the round on double pointed needles. This works when you are using either straight DPNs or flexible ones. But today I'll be demonstrating on my bamboo addi FlexiFlips. To begin, you need to mark one needle tip on each of your DPNs. I usually do this with a permanent marker. Let's get started. I'm working on a pair of riptide socks. The leg has a pretty lace pattern. The lace design is worked on the odd numbered rounds, and all the stitches in the even numbered rounds are just knit. So I know I need to glance at the stitch chart when I'm working on the odd rounds, but there's nothing fancy happening on the even rounds. I use my needle tips to help me keep track of whether I'm on an odd or even round. When I'm working on the odd rounds, I use the colored tip of my DPN. When I'm working on the even rounds, I use the plain tip of my DPN. So starting with round one of the stitch pattern, I'll use the colored tip of my needle to work across the first half of the round. Since my needles are already set up on my sock, the colored tip that's in my right hand is going to point to the colored tip in my left hand. This is a visual reminder for me that I'm working an odd numbered round. After I finish knitting the first half of the round, I'm going to reposition my stitches here. I'll rotate my work so I can finish the second half of the round. And again, I'm still going to be knitting with the colored needle tip since I'm still on that first round. Again, you can see that the colored needle tip in my right hand is pointing towards the colored needle tip in my left hand. When I finish round one, it's time to start round two. This time, I'm going to use my plain needle tip as I'm knitting. I rotate my work to start the next round. And then you can see that the needle tip in my left hand is plain, which serves as a reminder that I'm on an even numbered round. The plain needle in my right hand points at the plain needle in my left hand as I knit the next round. After knitting the first half of the round, I rotate my work to finish the second half. And again, the needle tip that's in my left hand is plain, which reminds me that I'm still on an even numbered round. And I point the plain needle in my right hand toward the plain needle in my left hand and begin knit. At the end of the round, I rotate my work and I can immediately see that there's a colored needle tip in my left hand. So I instantly know that I'm working an odd numbered round. Point the needle tip in my right hand towards the needle tip in the left and continue on for the rest of my knitting. One final note. If you are using DPNs that have two different styles of needle tips, like the addi FlexiFlips or FlipStix, that have a sharp tip on one end of the needle and a more rounded tip on the other end of the needle, you wouldn't necessarily need to mark the needle tips. Instead, you could work the odd rounds with the sharper tips pointing at each other and the even rounds with the more rounded tips pointed at each other. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any other tips for how to keep track of your knitting progress, besides using a stitch counter, please share them in the video comments below. Until we stitch again, happy knitting!